Hi, Dimitri, it's Lando.
This is Lando Norris, a recent Formula 1 race winner who is a regular appearance on the podium, and when he's up there, he just loves breaking trophies. And this is me on a business call, having no idea that I am about to meet him.
Dimitri, are you there?
Yep, I'm here, what's up?
Got someone to meet. This is Lando.
Hi, Dimitri, it's Lando.
There's no fucking way, dude! What's up, dude?
We got Max here as well, I'm Breeder.
Yeah, you know Mac? Probably don't.
Basically, we want to create our very own Quadrant racetrack, and we'd love to do it in collaboration with you. Does that work for you?
After calling my friends, telling them that I spoke to an F1 driver and trying to process it myself, I started working on the track by tracing the sketch that they drew. And right away, I was very intrigued because the drawing included maggots and beckets from Silverstone, corkscrew from Laguna Seca, Monaco hairpin, and this massive incline. But I still had a few dumb ideas of my own that I will be adding along the way. Now, test driving the track, everything went pretty smoothly. I'm just kidding. The track was not connected. And also, it was way too narrow for an F1 car, let alone 20 of them. Definitely need to fix this. So I fixed the road wideness, but still had problems with the following corners, so I decided to add a wall there. Those walls don't help at all. So I removed the walls, add some terrain, and some pretty cool bridges, which I'm sure are within the FIA regulations. 360. Yeah, let's go. Oh, that was fun. Down the road, I also made a pretty cool tunnel. This is cool. This is cool. Okay. That tunnel is actually very fun. In fact, it was so fun that I asked my Discord members to make some Lando fan art so I can slap it on the walls. And while they were drawing it, I focused on maggots and beckets, which just felt... Ooh, okay, wow. That is a little bit uncomfortable. It basically sucks. And the reason was because Lando's drawing to which I made the track obviously won't 100% match the actual circuit, so I had to reconstruct the corner and hope for the best. Yay! Let's go! This feels great! Okay. Woo. Now that we got this corner out of the way, what about the Laguna Seca drop-off? So that's not good. And to explain why it's not good, here's me loading up the actual Laguna Seca track and crying about how big the difference is. Dude, this feels so smooth unlike the stuff on my track. I'm not sure what's going on. So I spent a full hour adjusting the road curve, trying to make it smoother, but the results were frustrating to say the least. But I wasn't going to give up that easily, so I studied the physics of road camber, elevation, and friction. And finally, it was time to slap my steering wheel back on and try out the brand new and improved corner. Yes! Yay! Alright, so some time has passed, so let's see what artwork you guys made for the tunnel walls. I'm actually just curious how long until we find some Oh, there. There it is, Among Us art. Well, that didn't last very long. I'm sure these drawings break some sort of policy. Like, it's straight up disrespectful. We cannot be putting these on the tunnel. He says 5 minutes in MS Paint. Yep, I believe you. We're not doing this, guys. We're not doing this. Now, I know that's a bit disappointing, but let me make it up to you by making the entirety of Sector 2 Monaco themed, which means that I had to take plenty of inspiration from the real place, like the sidewalks and the buildings as well. Now, bear in mind, I was limited with time, so these buildings were not as detailed as some you'd see in a AAA title, but when put together with some vegetation such as trees, some railings on the side, and a few hills in the back, the whole place actually looked very nice. That's beautiful! This is insane, I love it! Next up, I started working on the section of the track, which I decided to make a waterfront. Meaning there will be water in front. Taking inspiration from Monaco as well as the Belgrade waterfront from my hometown. Now yes, that does unfortunately mean that cars will eventually end up in the water.
Hello, how are you? I am under the water. Please help me.
But luckily I installed some fencing at the sides with some detailing and some pretty interesting looking yachts. Now I know they don't look that good, but wait, is that Kimi Räikkönen? What is he doing here? Oh, okay. Continuing with the waterfront, I made some more buildings. Some looked good, some looked decent, but looking at the bigger picture, the place started to look like a functioning town. Except it was boring. So I started searching for crazy buildings, like super crazy, and then got introduced to the Belgian port house, from which I made some textures and started modeling. And this was the final result. But then I thought to myself, why stop there? So I paid some pretty weird dudes $2 to make this Belgrade tower from, and props to them, within moments they started working and were making a decent progress. No, I'm just kidding. 3D modeling doesn't work that way, but it was a cool shot I had in mind for the video, so there you go. Now you saw it twice. I spent 2 days on that. I also made a shopping mall just in case Kimmy gets bored on his yacht. Come on, you cannot say that this is not insane. This giant building right here that's under construction and everything. Oh, dude, this is amazing. This is amazing. What is going on? Next up was adding some details to the tunnel and making it only 4 cars narrow to make racing more intense. But if you think that's a lot of space, it really isn't. Then I filled the blank area with some basic assets and made a construction site because I was lazy and modeling a crappy bridge sounded way easier than making a whole ass city again. No, but come on, listen. I actually made some props like the sand, the fence, and also a shipping container. A couple of them. So I stacked these all over the place and these particularly look very nice. I really hope there's no car that goes through. Dang it. After stacking them back together, transitioning onto the Austin incline where I added some trees, ad banners, vehicles, buildings, you name it. Lando also specifically requested a Monaco style chicane corner, which is exactly what I made. Later, some road markings were added to improve their realism and it looked very good. Speaking of very good, after adding some details, the tunnel slowly started taking shape even without the Among Us art. You might not notice, but every single time I make changes to the track, I usually test it out right away, even if it's something as simple as moving a curb by a few inches, or adding this. Now the problem us sim racers are facing is that we often have to switch between the normal work position and the driving position, which is just time consuming, and the driving experience with flip-flops on your chair preventing it from going back when braking is just not as good as it sounds. So I finally had enough and decided to shoot an email to my friends at Next Level Racing. That's it. That's my email. They said no. No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, they said yes. They said yes. Now, the awesome thing is they have plenty of sim rigs to choose from, starting with a foldable one for space saving and going all the way up to this thing. Now, me, barely having enough space to stand in my room, let alone have a full racing rig, I decided to do the only responsible thing and say goodbye to the bed. Because remember, you can always sleep in a sim rig, but you can't drive in the bed. That would just be bad driving. And lo and behold, a few days later, I got this at my doorstep. The Next Level Racing FGT Elite Sim Racing cockpit made out of premium black anodized aluminum profiles. The assembly process was straightforward and took me about 4 hours. And upon completing it, my bed was disassembled and I was ready to race. This is where I'll be sleeping from now on, I guess. Now it's been well over a year since Next Level Racing sent me this thing, and I've spent the majority of that time driving on it and sleeping on it. The rig is super sturdy, it's super comfortable, but most importantly, the chair doesn't go back when you brake. What kind of sorcery is that? I don't know. So if you're looking for a bang for buck or a professional sim racing rig, definitely visit Next Level Racing. And if you want to support me and get a little discount, you can use code DIME at checkout. Thank you so much to Next Level Racing for sponsoring this video, but now, back to the video, baby! Woo! We're coming out of the tunnel. All this stuff on the road makes it just look so much better, though. I feel like a lot of people are gonna just escape through that place and gain time. So I have an idea. My idea was so genius, in fact, that after doing a whole lap, I completely forgot about the wall, and... Right, there's a... I forgot I put that there. And speaking of crashes... This crash can probably like cancel the entire race just because you blocked the entire track, basically. That's gonna be an issue. And what did I do about that issue? Absolutely nothing. Moving on. And now, having trauma from narrow turns, I decided to go all in on the final sector and make it insanely wide, which will hopefully make for some interesting racing. And you might say, oh, Dime, it doesn't seem that wide. No, yeah, it's 26 cars wide. That's pretty wide. After finally completing the whole track layout, it was time to focus on the fine details, such as painting the terrain for a more realistic look and adding hundreds of my previously made assets. Now, creating a good racetrack isn't just about the road on which you drive on, it's also the environment and the atmosphere as well. Basically, it's all about the vibes. You get the point. I made the track look good. However, good looking does not translate to function. In case you didn't notice, we don't have a pit box, and Bob here is just standing on the dirt. He thinks we don't take his job seriously enough, so let's fix that by adding the most awesome pit box ever, because Bob deserves it. And also because Lando's sketch never specified where the pit lane is. After modeling one of the pit boxes, which looked absolutely fire, I'm not gonna lie, I placed it on the ground and made some surrounding props, including the pit lane lines for the very first time. This way you guys will finally stop hitting Bob and hopefully start nailing some pit stops. I then selected the whole pit box building, added an array modifier, and pulled the value all the way up to 24. Basically, I made 24 copies of that original pit box. And after testing it, the pit lane worked just fine. That should definitely not be happening. It actually gets stuck in the wall. There's no way I got stuck in the wall, dude. I got stuck in the wall.
Please help me.
Besides getting stuck in the wall, the overall process of the pit lane is a success, unlike the start-finish line that is right next to it. The problem was easily fixed though by adding some audience stands, facilities over to the side, and obviously some trees and bushes. And then the final thing we need to do is writing out the names of my awesome Patreon supporters, which were then scattered across the track to their requests. And if you would love your name on the future tracks, you can join my Patreon, where you also get access to all of my tracks, extra content, and a reserved spot for any upcoming track racing video shoots. I almost forgot to mention that Lando requested this thing to be made. At the start, 5 cars can fit, further down 3, and then only 1 at the very end. I have to admit though, sometimes racing can be really interesting here, but usually it just ends up like this. And with that taken care of, after 4 months of tough work, this circuit is finally complete and ready for one of the best F1 drivers to race on it. Welcome everyone to the Quadrant Grand Prix circuit. The track length is a whopping 10 kilometers and includes 4 DRS zones, with the final zone presenting a significant risk of spinouts due to its curvature. The track itself contains 23 challenging turns. Starting with the Sector 1, turns 1 and 2 make a very interesting race starter that right away tests the driver turn-in accuracy. After the DRS zone, Maggots and Beckets are a flat-out corner, making the brave ones stand out. Now that real-life corners are mentioned, next up is the Laguna Seca drop-off with a drastic elevation change of a 9-story building. Moving on to Sector 2, that is all about Monaco. Coming from a top-speed DRS zone into the hotel hairpin corner with no runoff areas. That corner then leads us to the beautiful seaside DRS zone. Now comes the most challenging part of the track, the 574-meter long and only 8-meter wide tunnel that allows speeds up to 280 kilometers per hour. Exiting the tunnel, we enter the final Sector 3, featuring the last traces of Monaco's character with a challenging chicane, but only after a 25.1-meter incline. Sector 3 brings total contrast to the entire track by having very wide turns, including a turn 22 where you can fit 26 cars side by side. But that won't matter much because we're ending on a high with this funnel at the very end of the track where only a single car can pass through and claim the victory. Ladies and gentlemen, this is the Quadrant Grand Prix 2024. Since you all asked for it, here's a full onboard lap around the track. We're starting with the main straight, going the top speed before braking into turn 1 at the 50-meter board. Throttle control is very important here, so we're gonna be applying it slowly. A small underpass is separating the 2 turns, and if you get a nice line into turn 2, you will end up on the far right, just next to the bridge wall. Now comes a DRS zone that leads you to Maggots and Beckets. This corner is a bit sketchy since you're swerving around with the DRS turned on. That's why we hit the brakes as soon as the car seems to want to run off the track, and prepare for turn 6 that has a bunch of potential for understeer. After this small straight, Laguna Seca corner is up next.
That is so good. I love it. That's fun.
This is the DRS zone that leads you to the Monaco part of the track, and I made it quite wide so plenty of cars can fit and battle. But it becomes interesting when the track narrows, and also no runoff area here will have a bunch of cars locking up when fighting each other. Slowly exiting the hotel hairpin chicane so we don't unsettle the car, we get on this small straight where we have just enough space to position the car for the next turn. And speaking of the next turn, you gotta watch out on this chicane on the left. Then we push on the throttle as much as we can, going past these awesome builds such as the Belgian Port House and the Belgrade Tower. The car becomes very unstable here because the DRS is turned on while we're going through a 180-degree turn. We get to this confusing corner sequence with the walls so close, leaving us no room for error. And if no room for error was a competition, this tunnel would be a championship contender. I already told you that the tunnel is insanely narrow, but driving here just feels like the walls are coming to crush you.
That was so close.
After leaving the tunnel, we have a huge uphill going into a chicane where we brake at the 100-meter marker. And watch out for the walls on the exit since it's very easy to catch the rear tires with it. After the chicane, it's just wide turn after wide turn where you can take a little breather, especially in turn 22 where thanks to the nice runoff on the sides, you can take it almost flat out. Driving these last few corners, I genuinely zoned out, fathoming the fact that I got to meet and talk to the whole Quadrant team, including one of the best F1 drivers, Lando Norris himself, and on top of all that, making a track for him. I mean, What more could one person want? Oh yeah.
I got to race with them.